Imagine the final buzzer of a trivia game. The wager is lost, and for the first time, Monica and Rachel are the ones packing boxes. The guys take the keys to the big apartment, and the show's central geography shifts. But if we erase that bet, we erase the switch. The boxes are never packed, and everyone stays exactly where they were. At first glance, it seems like a minor change, just a few different camera angles and some familiar furniture. But in this world, those living rooms act as extensions of the characters themselves. When you change where someone lives, you change how they interact with their friends, their partners, and their own habits. By removing that one move, we change the trajectory of the group. The characters are no longer forced to adapt to a new environment, which alters the timing of their personal breakthroughs and the rhythm of their relationships. In this version of the story, Monica never loses her territory. She remains the permanent host, safely surrounded by her own rules and her own purple walls. Monica's sense of self is tied to structure. She thrives when controlling every variable, from the placement of the pillows to the guest list for dinner. Staying in her apartment allows her to avoid the stress of a smaller, messier space. She never has to navigate the vulnerability that comes with losing her grip on her surroundings. Across the hall, Chandler stays in his bachelor pad. In an environment reflecting his own habits, he remains emotionally guarded, far from Monica's organized world. This chart compares their relationship's progress. The steep curve shows the original timeline, where shared living creates frequent bonding moments. The flatter line represents our alternate reality. Without the switch, the transition to a committed couple takes much longer, spreading out everyday interactions. They would likely still find each other, but the romance would lack the same natural pacing, feeling more like a series of scheduled dates than two lives becoming intertwined. Rachel also remains in the comfortable environment of the big apartment, far away from the cramped quarters across the hall. Her journey is defined by her move away from financial and emotional reliance on others toward building her own life. In the original story, moving in with the guys acted as a test. She had to learn how to live without her usual comforts and adapt to a completely different set of house rules. In this timeline, those obstacles are gone. She stays in a familiar, beautiful space that doesn't challenge her, making her personal growth feel less urgent. Without that forced change in lifestyle, Rachel's evolution into an independent adult faces fewer hurdles, making her eventual success feel less like a hard-won victory. By staying in their own apartment, Joey and Chandler never have to learn how to exist within a clean, structured environment. They also avoid the responsibility of being the primary hosts for the group, a role that usually requires them to step up their social maturity. In this layout, the power dynamic is locked. Monica remains the fixed center of the group, with the other five orbiting her space. Much of the humor comes from contrast, forcing messy people into pristine spaces. Without that swap, the group's energy stays entirely predictable. The reverse is also lost. Monica and Rachel are never pushed into a chaotic, unpredictable environment. When the geography of the group doesn't change, the interactions stay the same. The humor becomes more about dialogue and less about characters being forced into new, uncomfortable roles. The show would still work, and it would still be funny, but it would feel less dynamic, less like a story about people actually changing over time. Character growth is rarely sustained by conversation alone. It usually requires a change in the environment that forces people to behave differently than they did yesterday. Momentum in a story is built by taking people out of their comfort zones. When characters are forced to solve new problems in new places, their personalities are tested in ways that staying home could never achieve. This mirrors how we grow in real life. We often find our footing only after the situation we were used to is replaced by something unpredictable. Friends works because it allowed a trivia game to change the geography of the show. It proves that unexpected changes we often resist are the very things that move the story forward.